Welcome into the 2-Minute Drill. Austin Gayle here with my guys, Kevin Cole and Mike Renner, the newly cut. Mike Renner's got the fresh haircuts, looking like pretty much the same haircut everyone else has. But I like it, man. Getting rid of the long hair, had to do it. But great to have you back on the A-team version of the 2-Minute Drill. We're going to start with this. CJ Mosley, New York Jets off-ball linebacker, is opting out of the 2020 NFL season after getting that $10 million roster bonus in March. Kevin, what's your take on this? What's that impact going to have? Mosley sitting out for the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we looked at this in a vacuum and we didn't see what else was going on with the roster, it might not be that big of a deal. He only played 2 games last year. The Jets still had, at least by the numbers, a top 10 defense. And we thought he was probably overpaid a lot in free agency last year. But the problem is when you combine this with Jamal Adams not being there. Now, Adams had the versatility. Adams was playing 40% of his snaps up in the box to make up for the fact that someone like Mosley was out last year. How are they going to fill that? I really don't know what they're going to do this year. And their schedule gets a lot tougher. So how are they going to cover guys in the middle of the field without the speed of Adams in the box and without Mosley being there? So I think this is going to continue the case for maybe the low-key, one of the worst teams in the NFL possibly this year if Darnold doesn't make that jump. And I think the Jets are really going to look at a tough schedule this year.
And Kevin, I think you hit the nail on the head there with Jamal Adams basically being able to replace the role that Mosley should have played on that defense last year had he been healthy. And it also comes at the leadership expense. The fact that you thought you would have had Jamal Adams last year to provide that leadership aspect. CJ Mosley, you're counting on him to be that guy this year. All of a sudden, there's nobody. And on paper right now, they very well may be the worst defense in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, CJ Mosley was already an overpaid off-ball linebacker. Has never been a truly elite off-ball linebacker in coverage. Hasn't earned an 80.0 plus PFF coverage grade at the linebacker position over the past few years. Only played a little over 100 snaps this past year. You have to expect with the defense losing Jamal Adams that they need some star power. CJ Mosley can bring that big playability. They won't have that this year. I agree with you, Mike. This is one of the worst defenses in the NFL right now.
Well, another piece of news over the weekend, and after what seems like forever, we finally have a piece of resolution in the Antonio Brown saga. We know that he's going to be suspended for 8 games. The latest word is that a team doesn't have to sign him now. So even if he's not on a team, he can still wait out those 8 games and then come back after that. So the question is, do we think that Antonio Brown is going to, number one, play this year? Will he get signed? And will he have an impact?
I give it a 99.9% chance he plays because talent ultimately talks in the NFL. We keep seeing Josh Gordon get chance after chance. You see these guys that, yes, the off-field issues were there last year, but he was on that commissioner's exempt list. Like that, no one wanted to touch him at that point. With this sort of being resolved, teams knowing what they're going to get if they do sign Antonio Brown, I think there's a very good shot he's on an NFL roster.
Teams knowing what they're going to get with Antonio Brown. Did you just say that out loud? This guy,
in terms of when he can play.
This guy's the biggest wild card in the NFL. I don't think anybody signs him. There's no point. The only reason he'd have an impact would be for a contender, and the risk of adding Antonio Brown with all of the outfield that has come with it, the roster distraction, etc., to a contender is just not worth it. I know he's this elite talent. You saw that with the New England Patriots in a short stint this past season, but you don't know what you're getting with Antonio Brown. You don't know what else is going to be uncovered if he is signed back onto a team. I think he's suspended for 8 games, and he sits out the other 8 as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are teams that are going to take a chance on him, although 8 games, that probably equals an Antonio Brown time, like 6 retirements during that time frame before he actually decides to come back. But we've already had strong word from a couple of teams who are interested. One being the Seattle Seahawks, who Russell Wilson was working out with them. And I can see, they're all in this season anyway. So why not go ahead and throw something at Antonio Brown for that playoff run? The other being the Baltimore Ravens, who had a couple of disappointing playoff exits. So again, Lamar Jackson is really desperate to take that next step. He's so desperate that in an interview last week, he called Antonio Brown a cool, down-to-earth guy. So, if you're willing to look past everything, and it looks like these quarterbacks are really willing to do that, as Tom Brady was willing to do that last season, I think he's going to end up on a roster. Whether or not he makes it to Week 8 or even the NFL makes it to Week 8, we'll have to see.
All right, the big football news from today. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson buys the XFL, willing to revive the league. Austin, do you think there's room for spring football? Can the league survive?
1,000%. I think people forget that the XFL, from a broadcasting standpoint, was doing a lot of things right. They had analysts on the field. They had different angles. They had coaches mic'd up. They were giving access to the game that the NFL has never done, that college football has never done. And if anything, COVID has shown that people are desperate for sports when they come. And I think spring football would definitely make sense, especially how the XFL is treating it from a broadcasting perspective. Give these players that can't make the NFL rosters in their first go another opportunity at making it to the big leagues. And even if they don't, create a product that was in some ways successful until COVID obviously impacted the season.
Yeah, I mean, this really seems like the perfect pairing here. When we have someone, when you get The Rock, not only does he have that Hollywood tie-in, he has the time as a football player before in the University of Miami. You know, they're going to need to build a lot of trust after burning their broadcast and business partners with the shutdown last time, which, you know, it wasn't their fault, but people are going to be hesitant to step back in. The question will be, can they get things running? Because there's going to be a huge opportunity in 2021 for this type of league, but are they going to be ready for something like that with possibly a shortened college football season, some, you know, who knows what's going to go on with the NFL? They could really step into that void. The question will be whether or not they will be ready in the next spring.
I think it can survive, but I think to do so, they have to take advantage of the turmoil that is college football right now and the fact that players at that age want to be paid and that no one right now is willing to pay them, whether it's college football or the NFL. If they step into that void and allow 18, 19-year-olds, these guys who are not NFL draft eligible, to make XFL rosters, I think you could see a much better product and you could see much more interest in that league.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.